Yeah, the city council met with legal counsel, with Mayor Yates and Mayor Pro Tem Yoloa recusing themselves. No action was taken.
Thank you, Councilman Duncan. We'll call the meeting of the June 21st, 2016 City Council meeting. Would you please all rise and join me in the flag salute? Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Have a seat, folks. Next on the agenda is public communications. This is the time to address the council on any item that does not appear on the agenda. The first request I have is to call up Roy Totten of Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills, to lead us in the invocation. Pastor, please rise, those who would like to participate.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, Lord God, we call upon your holy name. Lord God, we ask, Lord God, that you would, Lord, go before us now. Lord God, that you would lead this meeting. Lord God, that you give each and every one here wisdom, discernment, Lord God, that we would communicate, and Lord, our conversation, Lord God, would be pleasing unto you. And Lord God, we pray, Lord God, that you give our council members wisdom, Lord, discernment, Lord God, as they make decisions, Lord God, that affect, Lord God, the city, the citizens of this city here, Lord God. And we pray, Lord God, that this city would continue, Lord God, to flourish and, Lord God, be blessed by you. And Lord God, we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. Have a seat, folks. Under consent calendar, I have a request to speak on item 8 from Mr. Barr, Stubby Barr. Stubby? Be reminded, Stubby, you have 5 minutes for your presentation. And before you start, Stubby, just to remind the council, we have a prepared statement from Stubby for your convenience. Go ahead, Stubby.
Thank you, Mayor, and members of the council. My name is Stubby Barr. I am a resident of Chino, and I will keep this short and to the point. As some of you know, I'm an ardent advocate for disability access. As such, I tend to take a lot of interest in and probably over-examine issues such as the one before us tonight. In general, I am fervently in favor of anything which will encourage accessibility on our streets, sidewalks, crosswalks, or any other public right-of-way improvement. So on its face, the hiring of an outside consultant, in this case, an architect or CASP, to perform plan checking and inspection services seems beneficial to us all. However, I must question several items that come to mind, as money we spend on consultants is money we cannot spend on much-needed improvements. Firstly, the design and construction of new improvements and alterations in the public right-of-way fall under the oversight of the city engineer. As a design professional, verifying that the designs and the subsequent construction meet accessibility codes should already be an integral part of his responsibility. The contract for the city engineer was just renewed at the last council meeting at double this year's cost. This PSA appears to duplicate this responsibility. Secondly, there appears to be a misinterpretation of the function of a Certified Access Specialist, or CASP. The CASP program does not apply to publicly owned facilities or public works in any way. A CASP certification is specifically for construction-related accessibility compliance as it relates to public accommodations as defined in the California Building Code. In simple terms, a public accommodation is a privately owned business that is open to the public. For example, a store, an office building, or a movie theater. A CASP certified inspection or plan review does not benefit or indemnify a public entity, in this case our city, in any way, shape, or form. Last, it appears that the contractual limit of the original PSA was or will be totally exhausted in approximately 6 weeks. And I hope this is not an indication that we have or are severely underestimating the quantity of violations and corrections. And I sincerely hope that city staff can allay my qualms about these issues and provide justification for the necessity of hiring an architect and/or a CASP, Certified Access Specialist, to oversee the work of the city engineer. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Stubby. Appreciate your input. For those that may not know, we've been working with Stubby for quite a while, and we're moving forward in addressing all our facilities for the handicap especially. And we really appreciate you getting involved, Stubby. And we caught a lot of things that should have been corrected, and we're doing that.
My pleasure.
And we take your comments to heart, and we will continue to work with you in the city manager.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Stub. Also, we're going to pull item A, 2A, from the consent calendar, as Councilman Elrod was absent, but I would entertain a motion to approve the rest of the consent calendar.
Except for 8. So
Except for 8,
staff-
I'm pulling, yeah. No, we're voting on 8 also.
Well, can we have staff address some of the concerns before we vote on it?
Well, if you'd like to, would staff,
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Item 8, this item before you tonight, this is an amendment and extension to the contract with a specialist that deals with ADA issues that helps augment our expertise in this area. So this person does not oversee the city engineer's work. Matter of fact, he augments some of his work. The city engineer is in charge of design, make sure we meet all the standards that are put upon us. Realize that with ADA, a lot of it is subject to interpretation, and the laws, depending on which laws they are and which manuals you refer to, are confusing to us. And that's why we refer to these specialists that we have the contract with. Now, we currently have the contract with them for $25,000. We will probably exhaust that one by the end of this fiscal year, so we're resetting it for next fiscal year. This firm is looking at some of our designs that are being formed in the field. They provide inspection. Our city engineer doesn't do inspection. He doesn't go out in the field. But they're specifically focused on meeting these requirements. So whether it's a push button for a signal to make sure you have the proper landing, the form of the wheelchair access ramp, the crosswalks, that's what this firm is doing on the inspection side of it. On the design side, they help us in the development and review process, and they provide notes and comments to the project engineers and then as well as the city engineer. So they've been doing a great job for us, and our recommendation is to move forward with the award of this contract. Now, the city engineer also, his contract did not double. My contract specialist in the department indicates that this year's contract is for $100,000. We initially set it for $50,000. We came back to council and reset it for another $50,000 for a total of $100,000 this year. And for next year, it was set for another equal amount of $100,000, which gives us 2 half days that this individual is here with us at the city. So with that, I think I've addressed most of the questions and concerns there. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Eunice?
So obviously you don't feel this is a duplication, but some of the items that the specialists found this year, were they items that Stubby had brought up?
Yeah, we use there's 2 individuals that work with us. So we look at the buildings, such as this building, some of our public restrooms that Mike Colling has been under construction with, the community garden, public facilities, as well as stuff that we've constructed in the right-of-way that we're either under construction ourselves or they're under construction by development. So yes, they've been helping us with that.
Okay, Stubby mentions that public accommodation is a privately owned business that's open to the public. So this gentleman or person will also help with private construction?
If that need arises, we do try to have those private firms, developers, take care of their own, so we don't spend our money on it. But a lot of times when we need additional input, we do have that resource when questions come up that are difficult for us to answer.
Okay, all right, I'm satisfied. Thank you, Jose.
My understanding of the Americans with Disabilities Act, as particularly when laws are passed either in the federal government or the state of California, they're pretty, what's the word I want to use?
Ambiguous.
To be nice, nondescript, not really pointed in one direction. But since that was passed, they have yet to ever review it or define it, that law, which makes it difficult for the counties and cities in the state to, they're having a hard time trying to figure out what's what. Is that true, Matt?
No, I think that through time, that there's been some established guidelines or rules to follow. I think, when it pertains to this contract, what we're looking for is somebody to provide an opinion on an as-needed basis. This is not a substitution for the city engineer. It's also important to know that the city engineer is essentially a part-time individual who's here 2 days a week. And so this is just kind of to supplement their work. But this firm that we're talking about here for the $50,000 is really for only as-needed work or review.
And Mayor, if I may, I think a lot of times when you have the requirements and laws that pertain to ADA, sometimes they're difficult to interpret when we are dealing with some of the state requirements regarding, for example, the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, which is a device, a booklet and requirements that are held upon us by the state for signing, striping, signal design, how they're supposed to function. And many times it appears to us they're in conflict. And that's why this expertise helps us in that area to determine which is the right way to go with the final design and the final acceptance in the field.
Oh, well.
Mayor, I'll also acknowledge that our city engineer and Mr. Barr have disagreed on certain points. And they both provide background or examples of why it should go one way or the other. But clearly there is some disagreement between the two.
Interpretation?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll keep working together, Stubby. I would entertain a motion, if we're pulling item 2A, the minutes of June 7th. Elrod was absent. It's moved by Councilman Duncan, seconded by Councilman Howie. Please vote. Passes 4 with 1 abstention. I would entertain a motion for the meeting of June 7th with Mr. Elrod absent. It's moved by Councilman Howie, seconded by Councilman Duncan. It's approved 4 with 1 abstention. Okay. We'll go to public hearings. Prior to the vote of the city council, any member of the audience will have an opportunity to address council on any items listed under public hearings. Item 12, PL 16-0051, pre-zone, introduction of ordinance 2016-010 and PL 16-0471, annexation for Chino Pipeline Avenue 36 LLC. Whew, that was a mouthful. Staff report is by Nick Ligori, our Director of Community Development. Nick?
Thank you, Mayor and council members. This project is a request to pre-zone and annex a 36-unit single-family subdivision that is currently under construction and annex it into the city of Chino. The property is located on the west side of Pipeline Avenue, just south of the Union Pacific Railroad right-of-way. The development plan for the subdivision was submitted to and approved by the County of San Bernardino. but was required to conform to the city's general plan and development standards in order to receive sewer service from the city in conformance with city policy. Property has a general plan land use designation of residential, 8 units per acre. The city is a sole sewer and water service provider in the area. In December of last year, the council approved a sewer and water service connections to the property, as well as an irrevocable offer of annexation with the condition that the developer apply for an annexation to the city of Chino and pay all development impact fees. The first step in the annexation process is for the city to pre-zone the property and request initiation of an annexation by LAFCO, or the Local Agency Formation Commission. Property is proposed to be zoned as RD8, consistent with the general plan designation and the density of development approved by the county. A plan for service and fiscal impact analysis has also been prepared, showing that the city can provide all necessary services to this area upon annexation without negative long-term fiscal impacts. On May 16th, the Planning Commission adopted a resolution recommending the City Council adopt a negative declaration and approve the pre-zone request to place the subject property within the RD8 zoning district, consistent with the city's general plan. Staff recommends that the City Council conduct a public hearing, adopt resolution number 2016-052, adopting a negative declaration, approve the introduction of ordinance number 2016-010, approving the pre-zone, to be read by number and title only, and waive further reading of the ordinance. And finally, adopt resolution number 2016-053, requesting that the Local Agency Formation Commission initiate annexation proceedings for the affected territory. This concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Nick. Prior to council questions or comments, I'll open this public hearing. Anybody in the audience wishing to address the council on this item may do so now. Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. Any comments by Councilman Howie?
Yeah, Nick, just a quick question. How long does the annexation take hold from LAFCO? How long that, what's the period of time before it actually is annexed into the city?
They've told us that the processing period is typically about 6 months.
Okay, so even if we approve it tonight, it's still gonna be 6 months before the property is annexed into the city?
Yes, there will be a little bit of streamlining with this because they already have an irrevocable offer and it's uninhabited territory. So some of the other requirements that would normally take effect won't,
So-
because there's no residents in this territory.
So streamlining is 6 months, right? Okay.
Well, Nick, what about it? They'll be done with construction before then, right? What's their projection?
Their projections, the construction will take probably about a year. And so all of the inspection will be taken over by the County of San Bernardino. They're doing all the inspection currently, and so the city will essentially accept a finished development when we annex it.
Will they be able to sell units?
They will be able to sell once the county approves the tenant or the final subdivision map.
Thank you.
Nick, do you know what improvements they have to do to the streets? Do they put curbs and gutters all the way down to Riverside Drive?
My understanding is that they're required to improve along their frontage only for the full width of Pipeline Avenue, and then also put in the ultimate sewer and water connections.
Okay.
Eunice?
When you say full width of pipeline, that's both sides?
That would
East
just be
and west?
from the center line west,
Just
so just
west.
to their, yeah.
Okay.
To their,
Wishing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The
It's
church
like the
is
corner of
interested in-
Riverside Drive and
The church is
Pipeline.
interested in annexing too, so
Yeah.
that would get the other side.
What about the railroad noise and complaints? Because as you know, we have some development along a railroad track, and we get complaints all the time. Are the residents that are gonna be moving into the homes backing up to the railroad tracks, are they going to have to sign something acknowledging that there will be? Well,
It'd
yeah,
have to
but
be
I just wanna
enclosed.
make sure, I don't know what the county requires.
You know, I'd have to research that. There was an environmental analysis that was prepared by the county for this, and that is a foreseeable impact. So If I had to guess, I would say that they were required to do some kind of mitigation, but I'll have to research that to figure out what the required mitigation was.
Well, required mitigation and what's realistic to people sometimes are two different things, and we're gonna be the ones with the complaints. So I would make sure you look into that item.
Sure, and we have the developer in the audience, so they may
Okay.
be able to answer that question for you.
And then, are there common landscaped areas?
There are common landscaped areas, yes, so there will be a homeowners association that's responsible for maintenance of those.
And that agreement will come through the city so that we're in agreement with the points made?
I believe that will go through the county, because the map has been processed through the county and all of the development has been processed through the county.
Okay, have you looked at that?
We have not looked at it.
Okay, I would also suggest that perhaps we look at that and go from lessons learned on some of our own agreements to see if it covers the points that we're often concerned with.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Did they have to do an EIR on that, Nick?
What they did was a mitigated negative declaration.
Which means nothing's really addressed.
That means that choo-choo trains can continue to pollute as they put.
Isn't there one property between the
Yeah, there is.
development and the train tracks where they have the,
Yeah.
it's a ranch type house?
No, actually, the property directly abuts the railroad right-of-way.
Okay.
There's a house there.
Yeah, they do rattlesnake dog training.
Rattlesnake
Each
hunts.
dog's had to ward off rattlesnakes.
Okay. Any other comments? I'd entertain the motion. It's moved by Councilman Duncan, seconded by Councilman Howie. Please vote. Item passes 5 yes. Jimmy?
Yes, Mayor, this is ordinance number 2016-010. It reads as follows: An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Chino, California, approving a zone change amending ordinance number 2012-06, which updated the zoning map by pre-zoning approximately 7 acres of property to RD8 located along the west side of Pipeline Avenue, extending approximately 1,000 feet north of Riverside Drive within the City of Chino sphere of influence. Pre-zone number PL 16-0051.
Thank you, Jimmy. Next, new business, item 13, fiscal year 2016-17 city budget and appropriations limit. Excuse me, our staff report this evening is by our city manager, Mr. Matt Valentine. Matt?
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. At our May 12th budget workshop, department heads introduced their proposed operational changes for next fiscal year. Overall, with the exception of heavy investments in capital improvement projects, there are minimal changes compared to this current fiscal year. This is due to several variables, including market volatility, the likelihood of PERS not meeting their expected rate of return, which will result in increased costs. PERS is the city's pension plan. Upcoming changes in federal and local elections, employment agreements, increased staffing levels in the current fiscal year, upcoming Proposition 218 utility rate election, and water litigation with Watermaster, just to name a few. Although highlighted in the staff report, I'd like to note some of the changes in the budget since our May workshop. The first is we included an additional $900,000 in general fund revenue for the overhead from the Water Enterprise Fund as a result of additional increases in water projects. We added an additional $85,000 for field maintenance at Ayala Park. We decreased the general fund by $75,000 to fund expenditures for code enforcement, which are now funded by community development block grant funding. With that said, staff is pleased to present a balanced fiscal year 16-17 operating budget. Specifically, we are estimating $71.9 million in revenues with $70.8 million in expenditures. Another way of saying this is our proposed operating budget is $1.1 million to the good. When looking at general fund reserves, which is our savings account, our projected fund balance will be $44.1 million June 30th of 2016. With the significant one-time investments in our infrastructure, we expect to draw down our fund balance to $37.1 million come June 30th of 2017. In conclusion, I want to thank our staff for their efforts in preparing and managing their budgets. while maintaining a holistic view in serving the needs of our community. Finally, I'd like to thank the council for continuing to provide staff with the resources necessary to allow us to provide quality and caring service to our community. That concludes my report, and staff is happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Ballantyne. I'll open this for public comment. Anybody wishing to address the council on this item may do so. Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Any comments by the council members? I'd entertain a motion.
I got-
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, you know, I was looking over the budget. Believe this is my 16th year of budgets. And I'm the newest council member, okay? So they've seen many more budgets than I have. But I think it's only been maybe a couple years when we've actually had a negative in our budget, and we've had to dip into reserves during my time on the council. And I just want to commend staff for doing a great job of keeping our costs down and providing great service to our city, because all the council members hear great things about our staff and the job that they do. And so I think it's a pleasure, to comment and vote on a budget like this because of the great job our staff do, and I just want to make that comment. Okay?
Thank you, Tom. I'll entertain a motion for approval. It's moved by Mayor Pro Tem Ulloa, seconded by Councilman Duncan. Please vote. The budget passes 5 yes.
A lot different than it was 24 years ago.
Oh, God, remember that? Unbelievable. Well, we said it never happened again, and it
They
didn't.
go 2 nights.
I cried.
Oh,
I did. We had to leave.
yeah, back in 92, when Mayor Ulloa was elected as mayor, and Councilman Duncan and I first came on as council members, we were in a big recession. We had no reserve funds, right?
Right.
And our budget, we were $500,000 upside down in the,
Infrastructure.
it was a horrible, we had to end up laying off 33% of the employees. We canceled the Christmas parade. We canceled everything. And
Was not fun.
Eunice and Ben and myself said, well, it's never gonna happen to us again, and it hadn't. So,
We were $20 million behind just in street improvements.
yeah.
I mean, it was a lot of things.
Yeah, we were.
But you have to give a lot of credit to the employees
Oh, yeah.
because
Oh, yeah. They worked with us.
stuck with us, worked with us. The unions worked together. We were allowed to move people around as long as the employees agreed. And so, it's only through a team effort that our city has been able to rebuild these reserves and been really fiscally sound. Our streets look great. You can tell when you leave Chino
Oh, boy.
because you go from decent streets to potholes all over the place. And so we're really proud
Yeah,
of
how
what
much
you
are
guys
we
have done.
investing in infrastructure, this budget? I forgot.
Just in streets, the total was $5.7 million,
Just
but of
in
that,
streets.
3.7 is from last year because we're straddling 2 fiscal years.
Yeah.
But we've been budgeting $2 million, at least $2 million every year.
But you look at what we've put into sewer and water,
Yeah,
and
we've
it's
taken
just
money out of reserves
incredible.
to,
Our sewer
Wow.
shortfall was $80 million. And unbelievable.
Yeah,
yeah.
And then you figure that's with PERS playing their little games. We put millions, had to spend millions, so I
we
mean,
had to catch up funds
Yeah.
on that. And
yeah, we
yeah.
paid, what did we pay up front on that? We paid, instead of paying interest.
Yeah, I think you're referring to the side fund, which predates me, but I don't
Yeah, that
recall
was-
the
that
amount
was
of the
later.
side fund, Rob.
Was that later?
Do you recall?
Yeah, first was
$4 million.
gotten sassy back in 92. And we went through periods where we didn't have to contribute anything to PERS.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's
It
important to
was-
note that this budget, even though PERS is
That
not
was really being
performing,
farsighted.
we are setting aside funds to cover that expense.
when way back, before any of us were on the council, our forefathers, so to speak, were very, very wise in setting aside a very, very large industrial area so that we wouldn't be a bedroom community, so there would be income to support the town. Because a lot of communities are in trouble because they're bedroom communities and they have nothing to survive on except property taxes. And property taxes don't even pay for police and fire,
No, they
the city's
don't.
portion. So
Mhm.
we've been very, very blessed.
Okay, let's move to item 14, annual contracts, amendments, and purchase orders. A report this evening by purchasing manager, Ms. Ria Medina. Ria?
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. Included in the budget just adopted for fiscal year 2016 to 2017 are appropriations for regular ongoing services utilized by staff in carrying out the goals and objectives established for their departments. Per the city's purchasing policy, contracts and purchase orders over $25,000 require council approval. Staff has therefore prepared a comprehensive list of known contracts and purchase orders at this time for your approval. These contracts are for routine services that are necessary for regular ongoing operations in the city. It is therefore staff's recommendation that you authorize the city manager to enter into these annual contracts and to execute all necessary documents on behalf of the city. That concludes my report, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Medina. Prior to council questions, anybody in the audience wishing to talk about this with the council? Quiet group. I'll close public comment. Any questions, council?
Nope.
Entertain a motion. Moved by Councilman Elrod, second by Councilman Duncan. Please vote. Item passes 5 yes. Item 15, professional services agreement, Calabrese Architect. Our staff report this evening is by Mike Hurocks, our Building and Code Compliance Manager. Mike?
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. I am presenting for your consideration tonight a professional service agreement in the amount of $110,000 with Calabrese Architect. Calabrese Architect will be contracted to perform a self-evaluation on city buildings related to compliance with Title II of the ADA with Disabilities Act, or Americans with Disabilities, or the ADA. A self-evaluation is an assessment of the city's current programs and practices, and will identify and provide solutions to any concerns that are in conflict with Title II of the ADA. The city can achieve program accessibility by a number of methods that may include building modifications. However, in some situations, compliance may be achieved by simply redesigning furniture or to provide services at different locations. Once completed, the self-evaluation plan will identify concerns, provide solutions, and prioritize a timeline for implementation. An RFP was sent out to 7 different firms, and only 2 firms submitted a proposal. After reviewing the proposals, staff determined that Calabrese Architect was more qualified, and they also came in with the lowest bid. Calabrese Architect has recently completed similar work for other jurisdictions in the area. Calabrese Architect has met the minimum qualifications set forth in the RFP, and in conclusion, staff recommends that the City Council approve a professional services agreement with Calabrese Architect to perform an ADA self-evaluation and authorize the city manager to execute all documents on behalf of the city. This concludes my report, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mike. Prior to council questions or comments, I do have a written request to speak on this item, and it's Stubby Barr again. Stubby?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Thank you, Mike. I just want to add that I know that Mike and city staff have put in an immense amount of time on this. It's a long overdue and it's a complicated process. This is just a baby step, and this is what I referred to on the consent calendar item earlier. It sure would be nice to have that additional $75,000 to put into this contract, considering that the proposal was actually, the low proposal was actually for $250,000, and we had to reduce the scope of the proposal. So just to further qualify my earlier statement, but at the same time, this is a very necessary step that we need to take. It gets our momentum moving forward, and it's a step in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else in the audience wish to address the council on this item? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Eunice?
Mike, I have never seen a contract awarded that's less than what the proposal was. The one firm bid $631,200, and the winning firm bid $250,000, but your recommendation is to award a contract for $110,000. Can you explain that to me?
Well, as we've kind of been discussing, the Title 20 or Title II for the ADA can involve many, many, many different elements within the city. So our first approach is we're going to look at city facilities, which means city buildings. That's going to be our first kind of crack at this. So we're going to kind of assess the programs and the city services that the city does provide and really kind of look at and focus on those particular areas. So that's why the contract was reduced from the original amount.
Essentially, we're phasing it, and so I think, I meant to Stubby's, Mr. Barr's, I'm sorry, got to know Stubby real well. But to Mr. Barr's point, I meant, this is one of the first of many steps. I think we'd anticipate exercising the full contract, but we're just taking the first phase, so this is one of many parts.
When you go out to bid like that, however, if
Well,
you change the scope, don't you have to rebid it?
It was a proposal, it's not a bid, a
Oh,
formal
okay.
bid package, so a proposal allows for more flexibility.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if during this assessment, if this company comes back and recommends certain changes, that will come back to the council for us to fund, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's correct.
Because we do have quite a large reserve, so if there's things that we need to do that make sense, we don't have to wait to do that.
Absolutely. Probably, in fact, part of the plan is to cost these items out and then for us to kind of develop a plan on implementing those.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
But it's just a matter of timing.
I have just never seen that before. It's amazing.
Any other discussion? Entertain a motion to approve. Moved by Councilman Elrod, second by Councilman Duncan. Please vote. Item passes 5 yes. Under Mayor and Council reports, and I've got quite a few items here. But what I'd first like to point out, on June 30th at 10 a.m., everybody is invited to the Chino Police Department at, I guess, best coordinates will be Walnut and Central Avenue, next to Superior Market. We're going to have, lack of a better word, a parade, where we're going to be escorting the Vietnam Wall from the police department to a yellow park. That's June 30th at 10 a.m. The following day, on the 1st, we will have like a ribbon cutting for the Vietnam Wall that everybody's invited to. The Vietnam Wall will remain there 24/7. The area will be lit, and of course, we will have security there. And the wall will be departing on July 5th, so you're all invited. It's a pretty historic thing for our city, and we have to thank the Legion for putting that together. Obviously, with July around the corner, make sure you mark your calendar for Saturday, July 2nd. That's our annual Chino Fireworks Spectacular. And beginning at 3 p.m. at Rubin Yellow Park, this gives all the attendees the chance to enjoy great food, rides, and music, and of course, an outstanding fireworks show, which will begin at 9 p.m. I suggest you get there early as you can. Because of the addition of the Vietnam Wall, I think we're going to have a really, really big crowd. So it would behoove you not to wait till right before dark for the fireworks to show up, because you may find it difficult to get in. With this being the first official week of summer, I'd like to remind everyone of just a few great programs and events that are in store for this summer. Seniors at the Square on Mondays, July 11th and August 29th. The Chino Summer Night Movies at the Park, Fridays, July 8th through August 8th. Hike the Valley, Saturdays, June 4th through July 9th and August 6th. Summer Camp for grades 1 through 8, June 13th through August 5th. Tiny Tots program, June 21st through July 28th June 21st through July 28th and June 20th through July 29th. The Chino Kiwanis will host the summer concert on the lawns on Thursday, July 7th through August 11th. So lastly, the City Hall will be closed Monday, July 4th in observance of Independence Day. Okay, that's all I've got. Mayor Pro Tem Ulloa.
Yes, I attended the BIA Housing Policy Conference on Friday the 17th. Very interesting information. I have a lot to talk about tonight. According to the BIA, San Bernardino County is projected to have a housing shortage of 65,000 units by 2019. There were 4 panels that were held. First was a federal policy priorities panel, and they addressed tax credits for low-income housing, which would mainly benefit the multi-housing builders. And then the home mortgage interest rate deduction. Apparently, there's a move to try to eliminate that deduction on your income taxes. Then the State Policy Priorities Panel discussed California housing prices. The average price in California is $440,000, which is 4 times higher than the national average. Rents are approximately $1,240 a month, which is 50% higher than the national average. They're looking for the state Assemblyman Chad Myers and Mark Steinnorth were the 2 panelists, along with Rancho Cucamonga Mayor Dennis Michaels. They're looking for CEQA reform to try to get some relief on costs. But one of the drivers of higher density is the governor's by right proposal, which we've discussed here before, which allows builders to increase the density for affordable housing without the permission of the land use planning agency. Then the housing market update, that was quite interesting. According to the BIA, like I said, there's a shortage of they're predicting a shortage of 65,000 homes or units by 2019. Supposedly there's a 31,000 unit shortage this year, which will increase to 65,000. They all agreed that the FHA limit of $356,900 in San Bernardino County is limiting the ability to buy homes, since the average is $440,000. Steve Huffner of KB Homes was one of the panelists. This was interesting. He said 70% of buyers want single-story homes. Now, that's not a shock to anybody who has talked to their neighbors or anyone else. However, the developers won't only want to build the higher density 2- and 3-story homes because they can get more on the land. He suggested that a way to get 1-story homes would be for the land use agencies to reduce the setbacks from the street. I think that's very interesting because many of the homes right now, you can barely park in the driveways, and the lots are narrow, so your streets are overcrowded, so the neighbors fight because there's no place to park. In the last 10 years, new homes built in San Bernardino County, 40% was built in the high desert. That has now, 10 years ago, that has now dropped to 5% of the houses being built. People don't like that drive from up in the high desert down to the valley areas. Then Mark Torres of Lennar Homes, he was on the panel. They started the Next Gen Homes in 2010, which are multiple generations living in one home. It's kind of like a little small apartment with a little kitchenette. They have sold 750 in 4 years. And it's not just the older generation that's moving into these little apartment type homes, you know, with their younger children or their, you know, adult children. It's also college students coming home from college who can't afford to be on their own. So they're moving back home with mom and dad. So this way they have their own entrance and exit and their own little apartment. Lennar Homes is also working on net zero homes, which means through technical advances, the homes will be 100% energy efficient. I don't know how they're going to do that. Randall Lewis spoke from Lewis Management Corp. He feels the future is transit-oriented homes using bus lines, bikes, and walking. However, he does feel that one size doesn't fit all and that they need to give a lot of choices. Interesting, since one of the choices, or usually the choices, don't include 1-story homes. He says schools are very important to a home buyer, which we know, and having a sense of place, having a walkable atmosphere. Mark Torres, he's from the division of Lennar Homes. He was also one of the speaker, like I mentioned, Steve Huffner, Nicole Burdett, who's from Brookfield Residential. Now, the Affordable Housing Panel, they discussed housing partnership projects. All the renters are either seniors on Social Security or are employed, but only make 30 to 60% of the area median income, which is an average of $35,000 a year. Those with little or no income usually live in Section 8 housing. The people that are living in these housing partnership programs, typically make too much to qualify for housing aid, Section 8 housing, but not enough to pay market rent or to be able to buy a home. These projects, unlike normal apartment rentals, have very low crime rates compared to the regular housing complexes or apartment complexes because the renters have to have a criminal background checks. They must be drug and alcohol free. There's currently 11 to 12 projects in San Bernardino County, and there's a constant waiting list with the waiting period typically 4 to 5 years. Amazing. Ken Paxton from the Homeless Policy, he is a homeless policy advisor for San Bernardino County, addressed homelessness. There are 33,000 homeless children in San Bernardino County schools. The San Bernardino County Homeless Partnership spent $1.5 million for 112 units with HUD's Housing First project. He feels homelessness is a local issue. Now, Philip Mangano, a consultant for San Bernardino County, compiled data from 65 cities looking at all services affected by homelessness, and that includes policing, counseling, cleanup of trash, code enforcement, all of that. He found that the cost of keeping people on the street added to between $35,000 and $150,000 per person per year. The cost of keeping formerly housing homeless people housed ranged from $13,000 to $25,000 per person. I found that very interesting. Richard Hedricks, a homemade from Inland Empire, they've spent $17 million on 37 projects and received $6 million plus labor and in-kind donations. He spoke about the Foothill Family Shelter as an example for transitional and permanent housing. Now, statistics from 2013, this was pretty interesting. Renters comprise of 30% in Chino, 36% in Rancho Cucamonga, and 43% in Ontario. Housing stock by type. Chino has 77% single family and 20% multifamily. Ontario has 65% single family and 31% multifamily. Rancho Cucamonga has 68% single family, 30% multifamily. The percent of population living below the poverty line in Chino is 10%, Ontario is 18%, Rancho Cucamonga is 7%. The U.S. average is 15%, and California is 16%. They had a keynote speaker named Wendell Cox, who is a consultant and a principal of Demographia, an international public policy firm specializing in demographics, land use, and transportation. He said California has the highest poverty rate in the nation. There's overcrowding, which is acknowledged throughout the state. He feels high density will not solve the problem and cited Hong Kong, Vancouver, and Toronto as examples. He says you cannot force people to live in highly dense places. People will leave. 42% of the 25 to 34-year-olds will move out of the dense core. 99% of all growth is away from densely core communities, and most people want single-family, one-story homes and will move further out or even out of state in order to find one. He strongly disagrees with SB 375, which is the Sustainable Communities and Climate Protection Act of 2008. He said this bill directs the Air Resources Board to set regional targets for reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. In other words, if Land Use Planning Agency doesn't comply with SB 375, it may affect its allocation of transportation funds. So they dangle a carrot in order to get you to comply with what they want, which is denser population, smaller areas, and mass transit dependent. He addressed the migration of younger people out of California because of not wanting to live in crowded conditions, and they're looking for single-story affordable homes. Where population in states like California, their population used to decrease, California used to increase, the reverse is happening. States where people didn't want to go, people are moving to because the housing is affordable and it's less crowded. So I found it very interesting that on one hand, one of the experts spoke about wanting a variety of housing. but knowing the type of housing that's being proposed is very dense, and that statistics, proven statistics, do show 70% of people looking to buy a new home want a one-story home, and that is not what's being built. And that's all I have on that. I just found it a very, very interesting conference. Now, I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate Linda and Martin Takeuchi. Today is their 47th anniversary. Ooh. Yay, Linda. Also, friends of mine, Jeff and Darlene Vanden Heuvel, today is their anniversary, and they're celebrating 37 years. Wow. And Bob and I, this is our anniversary, and we're celebrating 41 years. Yay. Thank you. I know.
Poor Bob.
Oh. I know. He deserves some kind of medal.
He
Poor
does.
man.
He does.
And we're also, I'm proud to announce, we should have brought it up last council meeting, but I didn't, but we're great-grandparents. We had our first great-granddaughter on May 31st, and her name is Haley Page Hunter. She came in at like 5 pounds, 3 ounces, a
I
little
don't have
teeny,
any
teeny, tiny.
great-grandbabies yet.
I know, well, you're not old enough yet. So anyway, that's what I have this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Howie.
Well, it's a tough act to follow, huh? I don't have all those statistics, but I did attend a community center corporation meeting last week, along with the Water Facilities Authority meeting and the Chino DeSalter Authority, three different meetings. And on the 9th, I did attend the Chino Hills State of the City 25th anniversary. So it was quite a shindig that Chino Hills put on for their 25th anniversary. And of course, we all remember the original annexation and all that. And they mentioned Chino quite fondly, actually. That was nice. And so they had probably the longest city video I've ever seen. It kind of went through the whole history of the valley. Actually, it was pretty well done. I think they do it in-house. And their video was really good. Went on for like almost an hour, I think. But it, like I said, talked about, after about half hour, I think they were in 2004 or something. That was like, but they speeded it up. And
What time did you wake up?
No, we had a number of, we had a number of staff there. And, but they did a really good job, and of course, I didn't know if I'll make it for their 50th, but yeah, I did make the 25th, so that was good. And then, of course, we're not going to have another meeting before the 4th of July. I don't know if our police chief is going to come up and talk about, I just hope everybody has a safe, wish everybody to have a safe 4th of July. And remember, if you're going to shoot off those big things, you could be fined $1,000, so it's not worth it. Be careful. Yes, I have heard a few firecrackers and a few bombs go off in the city because my dog, as she's gotten older, is much more sensitive to those loud noises. But and I'm sure Karen will probably come up and talk about that. So she's not like her dog, who sits there and looks at all the fireworks and kind of is bored. I don't know how that happens. But anyway, just wish everybody a happy 4th, and that's my comments.
Thank you, Councilman Elrod.
I have no report.
Councilman Duncan.
Yeah, first of all, and most importantly, I want to wish my wife a happy birthday today.
Oh, today's her birthday.
Yeah.
Smart man.
Thank you. Also, Dennis brought up the fact that the Kiwanis concerts are starting. Remember that West Valley Mosquito and Vector Control District will be once again passing out mosquito wipes at the concert. With the Zeta virus and West Nile virus out there, you can't be too careful. So protect yourself and get some of the free wipes out there to use for the concerts. And you know, Eunice talked a lot about the housing stock. The last 3 housing tracts that I've seen go in, the Tango one's on Philadelphia, the Frontier one's by the police department, and I don't know what the track is, Lennar track over in College Park, have all had a single-story model in them, and they seem to do very, very well.
They sell out immediately.
So, anyways, that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager.
I have no report, Mayor.
City Attorney, Mr. Jim. Chief Constock's back. It was exciting when you were gone again. So I've decided you can no longer leave the city
Thank you, Mayor. You and the city manager both have, I think I've officially going to have all my future vacation requests decline from this point moving forward.
Yeah.
That was how I felt when Chief Pruitt was here as well. When he went away,
I
it
guess,
was very interesting.
Yeah, I think the criminals are scared when you're here, because as soon as you leave, all hell breaks loose.
Yes. The SWAT team and other people are always looking forward to the business, but I am not looking forward to that type of activity in my new town. So, thank you, Mayor, and members of the City Council. Thank you, Councilman Howie, for addressing our 1,000 Times No campaign in the city of Chino. As you know, it is fireworks season. It's upon us. It will be here in 2 weeks. While it's a great time for families to get together and enjoy safe and sane fireworks in the city of Chino in a very safe and responsible manner, it's also the time of year that we need to be reminded that illegal fireworks in Chino are not permitted. Basically, what that means, if it does not have the safe and sane stamp on those fireworks, and you're purchasing them from one of our local vendors here in town, they are not permissible here in the city of Chino. We generally field between 35 to 40 police officers on that night. It is by far one of our busiest evenings of the season, of the year, probably second to perhaps only New Year's Eve and Halloween. And that is the night that if you are caught in possession of or lighting illegal fireworks, you will be cited by our personnel. That administrative fine is $1,000, so we encourage you to enjoy the 4th of July. I happen to like the 4th of July. It's a great time of year. It's our nation's birthday. It's our nation's independence, and it's a great time for us to celebrate and barbecue. But also, please celebrate responsibly and do not use illegal fireworks or bring them here to the city of Chino. If our personnel do catch you, you will be cited. Is there any questions I can answer for the council?
You know, I find interesting, I live, so does Eunice and Duncan, we live right on the edge of the county. And it is illegal to have any kind of fireworks in the county, but it's like World War II.
That's correct.
They banned all fireworks, but they're a heck of a lot worse than what goes on with the Safe and Sane in the city of Chino. And they got some stuff there, I think, are M80s and I think one guy has an Abrams tank he fires. That's what it sounds like. But the county is really out of control. I don't know if they have the people to.
They don't have enough.
They don't have any people out there. I don't know what the deal is with the county, but.
The county has a different enforcement posture than we do. We take a very proactive stance as far as coming in. In addition, safe and sane fireworks cannot be used in our parks as well.
Right,
I don't know if people
right.
know that, as well as our commercial areas. So it's
Parking lots.
important for our residents, because sometimes you have residents come in from out of town and purchase those fireworks, and then they want to go to different locations where they're not permitted. So it's just not permitted for us to use them in those areas as well. But you're correct, Mayor, the county has a very different approach to that than we do here in Chino.
Well, even the city of Chino Hills, we can all see up there, you know, just looking up, and of course, their patrol, they're
That is the sheriff's office.
They're sheriff's department. But the whole town lights up. You can see, you know, the skyrockets and everything, and there's not any fireworks allowed in Chino Hills either.
On the evening of 4th of July,
Yeah, we get a free fireworks show looking up Chino Hill.
On the evening of
Right.
4th of July, there are several aerial fireworks shows going on, not just in our community, but the surrounding communities as well, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But there's access to those fireworks, as you know, just beyond the state limits, and they bring those fireworks back into here, also from, out of the country.
Oh, yeah.
But we do our best. I want the residents to know that it's a very large and important deployment to us, and we will do our best that evening to keep the city safe. Again, please celebrate, have a great evening. We want you to. We want you to come, to our events all weekend long, but on that evening on July 4th, and the days leading up to that as well, if we capture with those fireworks, you will be cited.
Eunice?
We live right between Central and Benson, and between the county area on the west side of Central and Ontario, the city of Ontario on the east side of Benson. We're in between two war zones, and it has started already. I mean, huge booms at night. It's
I live that
incredible.
way too.
We're
Yeah.
already receiving several calls a day and into the evening regarding fireworks violations. It is legal to light off the safe and sane fireworks once they go for sale through the evening of July 4th. But again, most of the fireworks you're hearing now are more than likely illegal fireworks that are being lit by people who are, certainly even can't even wait till the July 4th. It's so tempting, so sometimes for people.
It's just a shame. And then you read some of the social media comments, and they blame us because we allow safe and sane, but what they're hearing has nothing to do with safe and sane.
Correct.
Yeah,
you know?
it's
A couple Fourth of
it's a
Julys.
problem. It's a problem throughout any place you drive on July 4th. It's a problem statewide.
Well, it's to show you how people don't think, and I don't know if it's the liquor that makes them stupid or what it is. I was up camping up at Lake Santa Margarita 2 years ago on the 4th of July, and I had my trailer. And so I'd gone to bed at like 10 at night, and about 11 o'clock, I thought World War II was breaking out. The people behind me were shooting off skyrockets into an empty field. I mean, those bottle rockets, what do we call them? You know, like a pastor out there. I'm going, it was lighting up my trailer and all that. I'm going,
Dry conditions.
yeah, and the next morning the head ranger come up and he said, Dennis, do you know who let off those fireworks last night? I said, yeah, them idiots behind me. I dropped a dime on them. But how, I mean, shooting into a dry field with those bottle rockets. What do people think anyway?
Well, look at the
Mayor,
two fires that are
Mayor, you
there
cannot-
now.
yeah. Mayor, you cannot believe the things that I myself or our personnel have seen on the evening of July 4th. I've actually, the past couple of years, invited the city manager to ride along with me, and it's
What are they
it's quite the, alcohol definitely impairs people's judgment when it comes to fireworks, and it is
Yeah.
a holiday where, you know, we're celebrating, and some people are imbibing, and I always like to talk about, then you add fire and barbecue to all that, and it's I lovingly refer to it as our Mardi Gras weekend, but I know a lot of residents probably don't appreciate that, but it's a tradition in the city for us to have them, and they're here, and again, we want you to celebrate responsibly.
Well, and we still have a lot of dry conditions.
Yes, we
The
do.
two fires that have broken out already.
Right.
Yes, we do.
And with the illegal fireworks that's going on, it's scary to think what could happen in Chino Hills and in the dairy preserve, or the old dairy preserve, where we still have a lot of open fields.
Yeah.
You're correct, Mayor Pro Tem. I really do believe most people, when they're lighting off these illegal fireworks, really don't understand how potentially dangerous they are to the dry conditions that we experience here and are experiencing for several years in the state of California, as well as just the threat, if they do land in the wrong locations, the loss of property or potentially life that they can cause. So when you are engaging in the use of illegal fireworks, you're engaging in a very risky behavior on that evening.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Chief, thank you much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
You can't leave.
Is Fire Chief Shackelford here? Haven't seen him.
No, Mayor. I think that Chief Comstock said it all.
Pretty well covered.
So with that, I have no report, but we'd like to wish you all a very happy and safe 4th of July.
Thank you,
Yeah,
appreciate that.
one quick comment. I know the fire department confiscates a tremendous number of fireworks also on the 4th of July. I mean, I've seen, usually we get pictures, and they get, I don't know how you guys pick those up. Do you mind mentioning how you get, because you get a lot of fireworks from that evening.
Good evening, Mayor Yates, members of the council. Yes, that's correct. We have many of the police officers that are out. We actually have our fire prevention personnel out with them. Anytime we come across those, we do confiscate those. We have at the training center down here on Schaefer, we actually have one of our personnel assigned there. They take them in. We place them in barrels, we weigh them, and all of those are documented. Many of them we have to hold on to for cases that are going to be prosecuted. So, and then we actually turn those over to the county, and then they go through and they destroy those. So, in the years past, we used to be very active in our engines and patrolling the areas. We found that people basically have no respect, and we would end up under attack. They would literally.
It's not funny, but it is.
I would drive through areas where the skyrockets, they would aim them at the engines and bounce them off. So we've kind of backed off of doing that kind of patrol, but we're staged in the area. We usually come in when there's a fire, there's an injury, but we really count on our partnership with the Chino Police Department and our fire prevention personnel to get in. And they're able to actually walk up on these people. The fire engines are a little too loud. We don't sneak up on anybody. So they do a great job with confiscating and then ticketing and then doing prosecutions on those people that are violating. So,
Right.
Thank you, we appreciate it.
all right, thank you.
Okay, folks, we'll stand adjourned. Our next regular meeting of the City Council will be held on Tuesday, July 5th at 7 p.m. Closed session at 6 if necessary in the council chambers. Have a safe drive home. Have a good evening.